to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning, Sudbury. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us this morning. We are live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio for the second time this week. The second time in almost 3 weeks or 3 weeks. So it looks like things are up and running for now. We don't know if there's another cyber incident aftershock or something that's going to affect us, but we're here. Good morning, and thanks for listening. If you're listening in your car, if you're listening online, you could be listening at cklu.ca. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app, and it streams. You can also download it and take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We are your campus and community radio station, been around since 1984. Next week is Pledge Week. Make sure to check in to CKLU for all the great programming and the guest DJs that'll be on, the guest hosts from around the community, as we do our best to raise the money that we need to keep on the air, because it does require money, unfortunately, and the only place the money comes from is from generous people like yourself. So thank you very much for that, and that's not the only way to support CKLU. If you have talents in terms of broadcasting or computers or anything that has to do with CKLU, you can donate your time. Also, you can also have a show on CKLU. You just email Rob at gm@cklu.ca and you can get your idea for your show to him and work it out. And voila, instant podcast / radio show. You don't have to live stream it like we're doing, but you could also just keep the audio and have a podcast. So it's a great opportunity to not have to have all of the understanding yourself of the technical aspect, and we provide that for you, right? So anyways, there you go. Plug for CKLU. It needs you. You're the you in CKLU. It's your radio station. Anyways, we're also live on Facebook.com/Sudbury News, which doesn't need any promotion. Obviously, it makes a lot of money, and we're grateful for it nonetheless. Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. And make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the page and the channel. Also, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, Sudbury.news. You can catch the show there. Make sure to give that, go on that page and check out all the news, because it's a news aggregator. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about today. There's local stories from in town we're going to be looking at, local headlines from Sudbury.news, from Sudbury.com, from CTV Northern Ontario, CBC, and the Sudbury Star. And then we have a little bit of a deep dive in trying to make sense, as we do each and every day, of the world we live in. So it's hard enough to make sense of the community we live in, let alone the region or the country, but the world. You know, what's behind all the stuff that we have to put up with. And anyways, grateful to our viewers sharing videos. So today we're going to have a video from a viewer that was shared this morning. I think Belinda shared it. I know Liette shares a lot. Jerome shares a lot with me. There's a few of you that share. Denise, Brian, I can go on and on and on. And if I forgot you, or I'm just not mentioning your name, please have mercy on my soul. But I'm so grateful for any of you that share videos, share stories with us, to be able to share on the show with everybody. Obviously, I can't share everything, but the odd time, and more times than not, actually, a video will be shared just before a show that goes in line with what we want to talk about. And that's the case today. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being on. We'll dive right in. We'll get into some weather, a little sports update, news headlines, and your comments right after this. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. And Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca, as I just was on the wrong page here. So I'll click that and click this. And we're there. -1 currently. And it feels like -7. It's cloudy. You got your, today we got your mainly cloudy. Wind will be gusting up to 40 kilometers this afternoon. High of 6. Tonight, clear, increasing cloudiness near midnight. Low of -4. Wind chill will feel like -8. And then Saturday, tomorrow, cloudy, snow or rain beginning in the morning, then changing to periods of rain in the afternoon. Local snowfall in the amount of 2 centimeters. Wind will be gusting up to 40 in the morning, kilometers, that is. And the high will be +3. Look at your long range here, 6-day forecast. Again, high of +3 tomorrow, periods of rain or snow. Flurries on Sunday, -1. Chance of flurries, 40% on Monday, -3 is your high. 30% chance of flurries on Tuesday. High of 1 is your high. -2, mix of sun and cloud on Wednesday. And 60% chance of flurries, -2 on Thursday, March the 21st. I don't think I got the latest here. Oh, I do. Wow. That never happens. But anyways, okay, so we got our satellite view taken about an hour and a half ago over northern Ontario. As you can see, there's a lot of cloud cover. And we get a mix of sun and cloud as the clearing comes from the west there. And that's your Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with a little sports update, news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, and your Sudbury Wolves in action tonight at the Sudbury Arena. Get your tickets fast because they're probably, I wouldn't say they're already all gone, but Friday nights and the second last home game at the Sudbury Arena, it's going to be packed. It's a Friday. They're facing the Oshawa Generals, and there's going to be 1,000 lucky fans getting to the Sudbury Wolves game. First 1,000 fans who come in the main entrance. It's the only way you can get these bobbleheads because it's bobblehead night. Quentin Musty bobbleheads. And, you know, as players develop and as being as good of a player as Quentin Musty is, as he goes on to things after the OHL, and you have this bobblehead, you know, to remember players in their early careers, they're mementos, right? So you can get a free one tonight if you're one of the first 1,000 people at the game. So it's going to be, you want to get there early for sure, not only for parking, but to get your bobblehead. And then tomorrow night, the 5 are in action in the Sudbury Arena, and they are facing the Derby City Distillers. The Derby City Distillers, first time in Sudbury. So you want to get out there and watch that game. Unfortunately, no bobbleheads for that game, but it'll be a great time nonetheless. Get your tickets, greatersudbury.ca/tickets. And so, yes, we'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. There you go. We are back as promised and with your comments. Nonetheless, many people joining us. I have to get us up on the monitor on the fly. As we are on the radio, it does require about 8, I don't know how many more steps, but about 8 more steps in the morning to get on the radio, and all kinds of devices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of hardware, and not to mention all the software that's involved with having to remote to the radio and then live stream to social media. But we were a little bit late getting on this morning, so I apologize for that. Joining us on YouTube, you need money to eat because you can't eat words. That's Jesse. Thanks for that, Jesse. Good morning, by the way. And the next time you want to offer somebody who is starving help, maybe make sure you can actually help. Okay, well, Jesse, also make sure you actually know what help is. Help doesn't always come in the form of what you think is help, right? And you never want to bite the hand of somebody who is coming to help you. You don't know what they have in their other hand, right? They reach forward with a hand to pick you up while the other hand has the very help that is needed, but it's bitten. And so the person falls back down, not knowing what was there in the other hand. Marianne, good morning, everyone from Barrie. Maurice, good morning, Sudbury, smiley emoji. And Judy as well, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Liked and shared, Marianne, as usual. Yes, for sure. Leon's, good morning. A nation in debt, which we are, has no business borrowing money to give to other nations and expect taxpayers to fund the interest on the debt. That's Leandre. Good morning. And yeah, so if it's the first time for you on the show, and we talk about anything and everything, and we don't, there's no subject that's undiscussable, let's say. And even though we're all relatively happy people with positive outlooks on life, even though we recognize a lot of the negativity that's in the world, we have no problem discussing the negativity while maintaining a positive demeanor and being positive about it and having hope for the future, right? And so it sometimes might come across as just nitpicking and being whatever for people that might come from, let's say, that voted liberal or vote liberal or are liberal, let's say, or NDP, and you say, well, why are you so tough on this government? Why are you always saying negative things about them? Well, it's because we don't have blindfolds on, for one, and they're making decisions that are going to affect us in negative ways and already have. Let's see what your money's worth right now in Canada, right? And so it's not just going around being negative on people. It's calling out things that we see as we see them. And at the same time, I love Justin Trudeau, which I do as a person. I love him. I actually pray for him. I hope the best for him. But the decisions he makes are not in my favor for living a happy life in the country in which I live. They actually go against, in many ways. They erode my standard of living. They erode my brothers and sisters' standards of living. They do nothing to contribute to a Canada that I love dearly and have loved and will love, but he's changing it. He's changing it very drastically because he's an activist. He comes from a Marxist kind of mindset. He's not his own person. He is taking marching orders from people above him, which is not someone that I want to be leading this country, who listens to other unelected people that tell him what to do and then he does it. So we've shown that. And if you don't agree with that, you don't think that's the case, well, you just have to continue to watch the show or just look for things instead of just being in a silo or an echo chamber, and look outside of what you've normally been looking at, and you will find those things. That is the truth. So anyways, I'm not happy with that, but I love him as a person and as an individual. I don't have a beef with him if I was to go out to a coffee shop and chit chat with him or whatever. But the decisions he's making for Canada as a leader, I take exception to, and will not back down from that, because I'm standard and principle driven, not personality driven. His hair, as great as it can be, isn't a reason I'm going to vote for him. As many of my liberal friends have said, that's the reason they voted for him, and to just vote out a party that they can't stand. So conservatives, it's a bad word to them. So they just had to vote. It was a vote against conservatives to get him in, and they loved his hair and loved him. And so no idea what was behind the hair and the pretty face and what decisions he was going to make as a part-time drama teacher that was the experience he had to run a country, I said, that's probably not going to help the country, being a part-time drama teacher. And then, as an employment consultant or a business coach, as I do in my career, I would never think those are transferable skills, as we have transferable skills we learn, talents we have as we go through life. I wouldn't think those would be transferable skills to be a prime minister of as powerful, as big of a country in terms of influence, one of the G7 in the world, to be a prime minister. I just wouldn't think, okay, I look at his resume, part-time drama teacher, and you want to be prime minister? If he was sitting in my office, I'd say, I just don't think you have reasonable goals here. I don't think they're realistic. I think you should maybe look at maybe becoming a full-time drama teacher, or maybe going back to school and becoming a teacher of maybe another, another subject kind of thing. But I wouldn't think prime minister. Yeah, but I'm one of the former prime minister's sons. I'd say, well, it is a world of who you know. That's true. That would account for something. I think people are just going to vote for you just because you're the son of a former prime minister and you're good looking. And he'd say, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure people are going to do that. I think he was out of his mind. I'd say that's impossible. How could that happen? It happened. And here we are. And now we're living it. We're living 8 years of it, by the way. Okay, good morning, Belinda. Speaking of being positive and whatever, and I appreciate Leon's statement of the day as well. So Belinda says, the way that they treated you, I hope you choose to walk away and do better. Oh, good morning. If you ever get the way they treated you, I hope you choose to walk away and do better. Oh, I see. I was supposed to say, if you ever get the chance to treat them the way they treated you, I hope you choose to walk away and do better. So yeah, don't do as they do. Two wrongs don't make a right. Be spiteful back. No, the best way is to kill people with kindness. And that's not a negative thing at all. It's not like, so I'm going to kill you with kindness now. No, it's not one of those things. It's actually being kind and actually living that way. And, you don't have to stoop to people's levels to make change in the world. That's what a lot of people think. They get into politics and they're all well-meaning and stuff. And unfortunately, most of them that I see, they end up just realizing, they just end up stooping and not being themselves and not being people of integrity and not standing up for principles. Maybe they didn't have strong enough principles to begin with in the first place when they got in to positions of leadership. But anyways, thank you so much for that. Morning, Vin. Thanks for being with us. Liette, good morning from Collingwood. And Marianne, exactly. The better person walks away because two wrongs don't make a right. Good day, everyone. That's Monique. Good morning. And Linda, good morning from River Valley. Our tax money was put to a good place yesterday. Time for OPP to do something. Okay. So it looks like OPP got an injection of money. So yes, we'll have a little bit on that a little bit later on the theme of police. That's going to be one of our deep dives today. Good morning, Nickel City campers. Super excited about being another day closer to the next federal election. That'll also be part of our theme today. And it is the Ides of March, I must add, this morning. March 15th, the Ides of March. Dennis, good morning from London, Ontario. Thanks for being with us. Dennis and Jerome, good morning, sir. Richard, good morning. Thanks for being with us. And love all those emojis. It's amazing how we can speak in hieroglyphics these days. We're going back to the days of Egypt, but I understand what you're saying. It's pretty cool. Liette says, this is a great show for discussing political issues and differences, an outlet seeking truth and accountability, for sure. For sure. That's all we're after. I don't think that's a wrong thing, if you ask me. It's not a popularity contest. It's definitely the country doesn't run on ideology, for sure. That's another thing I hear Justin Trudeau always talking about Pierre Poilievre and conservatives and don't get your ideology mixed up with politics. And I'm like, that's one tactic I think everyone can call you on. You accuse everyone else of doing the very things you're doing. And sometimes before you even do it, which makes it complicated to come back at you. You know, it's a tactic. It's dumb. It's juvenile, but it's used. Very poor leadership from our current PM. Hard to love a Trudeau right now, unless you're Jagmeet Singh. Again, we'll have more on that a little bit later. Connecting dots, as we say on the show, about why this coalition government is functioning, what it's doing to this country, and should you care? Should you care if you're a Liberal or NDP? Are you like, yes, my guys are in. They're making the changes I really like. And then you go to the store and you buy something, and you're like, why is my money not worth anything anymore? And you don't connect the dots. Well, we'll connect them for you on the show. Trudeau has sold his soul to the dark side. And he did it with his eyes wide open. That's Belinda. Absolutely. This is Marianne. And good morning, Debbie, good morning. Thanks for being on. Jesse says, if you starve a dog long enough, when you stick out your hand in his cage, he is going to bite you. And unfortunately for the dog, he's going to suffer even more. And good thing that we can be human beings and not animals and try and rise above that kind of mentality. Okay, so you also go on to say, and do we blame the dog on the matter? No, we blame the human or the master. Do we blame the dog or the master? Well, who is your master, Jesse? Just a question for you. Who is your master? Just think about that for a bit. Okay, so Dennis, I think the only reason and explanation we have for Trudeau being elected is because he announced that weed would be legalized, so most potheads voted for him. And you know what? It's funny you say that, because asking people what is the best thing Justin Trudeau did for Canada, other than supporting some troops in a country bordering Ukraine or something, one former listener said, and he's not the greatest supporter of our troops, I'll tell you that. Any veteran will tell you that. But that was one thing. And then the other thing was he legalized pot. So imagine that's your legacy, that you legalized a drug in a country. And that's what you're most known for, in a good way. You're known for a lot of other things that aren't good, but that's the only good thing you're known for. Canada, this is Liette, Canada. Once a great country has sunk to a level of destruction. With Trudeau at the helm, Trudeau and governments serve as foreign WEF. They serve the foreign WEF master. Speaking of masters, that's who our government's masters are. And that was said by Klaus Schwab, the leader of the WEF. He said most of Trudeau's cabinet has been, in his words, infiltrated. Right? So what does that mean? Most of Trudeau's cabinet has been infiltrated by the WEF. You know, he came out and said that publicly. You don't believe me, you go find it. Right? It's there. So, and it's not AI. That's just the facts. Yes, for sure. Dennis, thank you. I appreciate you too. Dennis, thank you very much. Marianne, he should have decriminalized it instead of legalized it. Government makes big money from it. That is true. Principles over party is very true. And our ongoing discussion with Jesse, because we're human beings, we're now better than animals. Wow. We are better than animals. We are the masters of animals, for sure, right? if you tried to put your dog in charge of your finances and make you something to eat, see how that goes for you. Like say, okay, from now on, my dog is going to be the master of my house, and see how that goes. And then see how that statement turns out. Yes, we are the masters of this world. It was given to us by a higher power to treat it properly, to treat animals fairly, to treat the world the way that it should be, to be stewards of the world. Are we doing good at it? That's questionable, right? So that's up for debate. Some good, some not so good, some terrible, some really good. But no, we are by nature stewards of the earth and the animals and all that's here. And we're supposed to keep it in good order, including our own homes. So that's what I say. Let your animal be the master in your house. Be your equal and see how that turns out. You'll eventually say, well, maybe I need to feed my dog, or maybe I need to be the master here. And you'll realize that that's just nature, right? So yes, I am saying humans are masters over animals, for sure. I am the master of my own domain. There you go. So that's why I asked Jesse, who is your master? And Marianne is saying she is the master of her own domain. So that's the right answer. I don't know if I have, let's see if I have it available. No, that's the wrong one. Oh, there. And I got rid of the drum roll by doing that whole thing. So I'm going to have to replace it later. Okay, so the government is our masters. I thought that that would be obvious. And no, they're not. They are if you allow them to be. No, it depends. They're the master over your taxes and laws and but not your will. They're not masters over how you feel. They're not masters over your decisions you make. But they're the masters of laws and governance and taxes and things like that, which obviously affect our lives. I mean, that's what we talk about so much on this show all the time, because it is affecting our lives more and more and more in a derogatory way in this country. Like, our country is plummeting. It's going down. We can see it's heading into like third world territory. If it continues to go the way it's going, that's meaning standard of living alone explains a lot, right? So again, what you're feeling, Jesse, is you're giving your power to other people, and you're saying, I'm allowing you to control how I feel. And you could say, well, that's because I don't have enough money at the end of the day. That's one thing. That's one of many things. It's an important thing too, hugely important. And that's what we're hoping the whole nation doesn't get down into. If you don't have anyone there to lift you out of where you're at and everyone's at the bottom. See, that's the idea of communism, is to make everyone at the bottom. It's not to bring everyone to the top, that people that in Canada, at least the warm, cuddly communism that we think we believe in, the Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Jagmeet Singh's version of communism, or even Justin Trudeau's, is you think it's going to be this unicorn utopian world where everybody is equal and equal outcome and everyone's the same. And no, in order to have a world like that, you need strong police, you need totalitarian type governance, but everyone ends up at the bottom. Everyone ends up at the bottom, not at the top. And that's just the way it's going to go. That's the way it's going. We're heading there. Many comments coming in. I know it's an interesting conversation, different than we usually have to begin the show, but that's the way it goes here. We just go with what's here at the time. Want to get into some news headlines. So let's get right into it this morning. Like, what the heck? What the heck's going on with our country? So, Jesse, you'll appreciate this as you see the country erode around you, and may not even have any money given to you by the government, or the money that you are given to you by the government will come with many strings attached, and you will definitely have to sell your soul in order to get that money at some point, right? You'll have to do everything they say, so many compliant things in order to get the little bit that you're getting right now, right? So not only do you have free will right now, the will to choose different things, you will lose that in order to get money. If you continue to just go to them for all your problems to solve them, which is that's what they're hoping. They've made themselves they've made themselves that. Businesses can't function anymore without grants and whatever from the government. So that tells you something. Like, they got their hands in everything, way too many things, and there's way too little free market going on, which is what makes an economy. But how do we get here? Where are we at? I know Belinda shared a really great video with me this morning, and we'll start with that. This is what our country's in. This is a YouTuber called the Celtic Canuck. She's got a strong, I think, Scottish accent, and so people that struggle with accents, I apologize on the radio or even viewing, but really pay attention to what she's saying. She's really nailed the state of Canada and what's going on here. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Celtic Canuck, and we have finally reached peak insanity.
Constable Marco Ricciardi had a new message for vehicle owners who keep their fobs in Faraday pouches.
to prevent the possibility of being attacked in your home, leave your fobs at your front door. Because they're breaking into your home to steal your car. They don't want anything else.
So just to let everyone know here, the police have announced in Toronto they want you to keep your keys in a place where criminals will easily be able to get them so they don't break into your house, and just let them steal your car. That makes sense, right?
A lot of them that they're arresting have guns on them, and they're not toy guns, they're real guns. They're loaded.
Law enforcement seems to have completely surrendered to the criminals at this point. We are supposed to not only be willing victims, but actually become an accessory to their crime. Or maybe it won't count as a crime anymore because you gave them the keys. Maybe it's a gift now. A nice welcome present to the neighbourhood, to reinforce that stereotype about how nice Canadians are, which then makes it a patriotic duty, which is roughly the same logic that came up with this horrendously bad piece of advice from Toronto police in the first place.
Leave your fobs at your front door.
You're supposed to make it easy for them, so they won't hurt you. An admission, if nothing else, that these are violent thugs, and rather than address that, it's better we just try not to piss them off and maybe they'll let us live. Gone are the days when violence and criminality ran rampant and in response we locked up our daughters. Now we're supposed to leave the door unlocked and make sure she sleeps naked. We wouldn't want the rapist to have to struggle with a bra strap, would we? He might get frustrated and hit her. Better we all just assume the position and let whoever wants their way have it. Be nice, accommodating Canadians. This from the very people whose sole purpose is the prevention of crime and the enforcement of laws which prohibit it. But they're still getting paid. Maybe by DoorDash for delivering coffee.
Social media posts criticize officers for appearing to deliver coffee to pro-Palestinian demonstrators. The exchange, which was captured on video by lawyer Karma Sad, happened at a protest on the Avenue Road Highway overpass on Saturday.
This is beyond an embarrassment. I mean, we have been humiliated by our government and even the police force before, but this is something else. This is you being asked to submit to an inevitability that should not be inevitable. Unless their time and resources are going to be all used up by hunting down the likes of me for speech that hurts their feelings. Because that seems to be the priority.
I'm terrified by the dangers that lurk on the internet for our children.
Freedom of expression is under threat in this country. It is under threat from hatred, and our job as a government is to curtail it. That is what this bill will start to do. It will empower Canadians to protect themselves and ultimately to express themselves.
So how hypocritical is this? The government comes out, they're very tough on crime. They're tough. You can't have hate speech online. We have to be tough. Meanwhile, on the other side, they're saying leave your keys so that criminals can just come get them at your front door. Leave your fob in your mailbox for criminals. But yet we got to be really tough on people that hurt people's feelings online. So crazy and backwards.
Freely and openly.
What you say What you think must be cracked down on with maximum force. You can, however, run lawless in the streets, grabbing whatever takes your fancy and never see any repercussions. Next, they'll want us to help load the van with all our stuff in it. And when your car gets stolen, they'll tell you how lucky you are that you get to save on the carbon taxes that were going to be applied for using it. Hell, this might even be considered a rebate by the Liberals. This is where we are now, and it is peak insanity. Led by a Prime Minister whose personal protection detail seems to be getting bigger with each public appearance, and understandably so, because wherever he goes, he is either being protested by angry Canadians who have had it with his slow dismantling of everything they thought this country was, or he's being told that he has blood on his hands by people waving Palestinian flags and calling for a genocide. And the genocidal ones are likely to get help from him before any of the rest of us do. And his answer to crime? Make it easier for the criminals. And don't bother the police with it because they have more important things to do, like monitor speech for potential hurt feelings. I can clean out your house, take your car, slap you around a little on the way out, and that's just fine, so long as I don't misgender anyone while I do it. I mean, how, in any reasonable society, is this destructive band of quislings still holding any sort of authority? Meanwhile, you're being taxed into poverty or on a first-name basis with Barbara at the food bank, and you haven't had a family doctor in years. Protesters chanting for a genocide in some far-off country are treated with more dignity than the Canadians who dared complain about the state of things right here. And to add insult to all that injury, they are sending billions elsewhere to solve other people's problems, while telling you to shut up about yours. And if you really don't like it, have you considered MAID? I would call it Clown World, but this is long past being even remotely funny. We need an election. Right now. No delay. Stop the madness.
And for people watching outside of Canada, if you're not familiar with what MAID is, medical assistance in dying. The government is trying to push forward and move it forward. We already have it as one of the top ways of death in Canada as it is, top forms of death, but they want to push it forward and include people that struggle with mental illness and youth and things like that. They want to make that available. So that way, if you're having problems, instead of going to see a psychiatrist, which you might have to wait for months and months, or if not years for treatment, you can get in weeks. You can actually have the government put you to death under doctor supervision. And so this is where we're at in our country, just to give an update for those who are watching out of other countries.
A leader acting without the support of the people, signing us up for things we do not want, and the country is being dismantled and sold off for parts, sublet to whoever wants in. And the same people being taxed to pay for it are all the ones who are suffering. It's a masochistic nightmare, gone so far that we are actually in disbelief that we could be in this place and there be no function already in place to put a stop to it. Where is CSIS? Where are the police? Where are the military? Where are all the agencies whose sole duty is to protect the sovereignty of the nation, to secure the nation against foreign and domestic threats? I mean, at this point, I really don't think it's a stretch to say we are being led by terrorists. Terrorism is defined by the unlawful use of violence, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. And allowing that violence to be committed by somebody else does not negate your responsibility. If that violence is by the proxy of allowing others to commit it unhindered, that makes it government sanctioned. Yet here we are, with no mechanism in place to rid ourselves of the destructive influence this Liberal government continues to exert. Aided and abetted, I might add, by the NDP. Trudeau has zero incentive to put a stop to this. He's the one doing it, and his position is currently protecting him from any consequence, as evidenced by the fact the RCMP won't even bother talking to him when they know full well laws were broken.
And on top of it, the watchdogs, the media in Canada, is crumbling. Like 4,800 jobs from the largest news organization. Journalists have just been laid off, fired, let go. And then our state-sponsored media, which receives $1.5 billion of taxpayers' money, which is basically government propaganda, That's all you can call it. They even fired 600 people while they got $100 million more of tax money. So journalism is dead in Canada, dying at least. It's almost gone, and then it's illegal to say anything. Anyways, so why would you want to be a journalist, for crying out loud? But anyways, so how are people going to call these things out to the masses?
A dereliction of duty in itself. But who the hell is going to call them on it? The guy they won't investigate is going to call an inquiry because they didn't investigate them? It's hardly likely. At the end of the day, the only people with any real power to help us are hiding in the background and trying to look innocent, feigning shock and outrage at these things when they could put a stop to it in a heartbeat by simply withdrawing from the confidence and supply agreement they made with the Liberals. But the NDP are willing to sacrifice each and every one of you because it makes the Liberals look bad, and maybe they can siphon those dissatisfied votes next time around. And the nerve of that, the nerve that you could even run for office after you stood there and let this happen when you are the ones who could stop this at any moment. I, for one, will not let people forget your part in this. But hey, we got a dental care bill. So when they break in and knock your teeth out, you can get a little help with the cost. It's a sick joke. And the anger and frustration and misery at the Liberals belongs in equal measure to the NDP for facilitating it. I am by no means saying Pierre Poilievre is the answer to all of our prayers, and it will magically become sunshine and rainbows. What I am saying is that the NDP and the Liberals have conspired to do this to Canada and continue to do so. Sunny ways turned out to be the fires of hell, and the only rainbows were painted on crosswalks, so I'll skip the sunshine and rainbows part. I'll settle for a bit of common sense and a stop to this madness. But again, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments.
So there you go. That was a great video. I think, wow, to sum something up so articulately as she did, the Celtic Canuck. So you can follow her on YouTube, the Celtic Canuck. Thanks, Belinda, for sharing that this morning, because that really sums up the state. Yeah, especially this news that just came out where they're saying, police are coming out saying, put your key fob where criminals can actually access it outside your door, like with a sign maybe on it, with a lit up sign, like blinking, saying, here's my key fob blinking. Come take my car so you don't break in my house and do harm to me, because a lot of these criminals have weapons on them apparently, and they'll do harm to you. So in order to avoid that, just leave your key fob in the mailbox, which is then going to drive up. I don't know. Are they going to count that as a crime then? That's what this particular lady was putting out there, because it's not really a crime if you give your keys to someone to take your car. So then it's not crime anymore, really, because you allowed them to do it. So what the heck? But yet, if I say something, I don't agree with Prime Minister Trudeau on a policy, to make it legal to kill a minor without the consent of their parents, but under a doctor's orders, I can get put in jail and have a fine of up to $70,000. So that is such a crime to say I don't agree with that, but yet not a crime to steal someone's car. Actually, they're condoning it and facilitating it and helping the process by making it easier and giving you suggestions of what to do. That's police. That's Toronto police. Our police just, Sudbury.com reported yesterday and the day before that they're trying to hold the police accountable a little bit by asking for more information. Our police force gives way less information than, let's say, Guelph or Barrie, similar sized cities. And we have double the crime rate here. But the police are like in the chair. Al Sizer says, no, you get what you get and be happy with it. We do a good job. We pat ourselves on the back. Right? So this is the world we live in. So how did we get here? And there, came across my mind an old radio broadcast from a gentleman by the name of Paul Harvey. And you got to rise above everything and say, well, who's at the helm? Who is driving the bus here with all this craziness, right? And this came into my mind, and I just thought I'd share it with you since it came in my mind. Paul Harvey from many, many years ago.
If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions, just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
So a little, a long time ago, Paul Harvey on the, little rant on the radio, and very telling as to, some of the wording is a little out of date, and some of the, you have to kind of connect the dots of what it would be like in today's, version. Instead of TV, it would be on TikTok or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you can very much update that that little thing that he did there to a more modern one, which probably is worth it to do. But anyways, there's a lot going on. It's a very big onion, our world. But there's a driver of the bus here, and it's good to call out who the driver is, because if you don't, it's a little more confusing. And just like, a battery, it needs positive, it needs negative. The world is built on positive and negative. This earth, there's positive and there's negative. And you kind of need it in the world in order to make things function in this world we're in. And unfortunately, when one gets a little too overpowering in the world, there's a little bit of an uprising, right? If the world gets too good, then there's a backlash as to why does it always have to be this way? Why does it, and then you want to be different, and then it gets too bad, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, so it's always back and forth, the yin and the yang. However, we can see where the country's going, and just from what we saw from the Celtic Canuck alone, amongst other things, there's so much to talk about each and every day. But I hope everyone has a good weekend, a great weekend. Stay positive. Know that you are the master of you. Nobody else is. You can have your own world in your own way, no matter what, no matter who, no matter how things are around you. You can control your own feelings and, stay positive regardless, right? So however you're able to do that, I wish everybody a wonderful weekend. Thanks for being with us on the show. All the people on CKLU can stay tuned now for Earshot Daily. We're not used to being on CKLU for the last a couple weeks, but here we are. So I hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll see you, God willing, same time, same place, on all the same platforms and stations on Monday. Have a great one. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.